He reached for a carton of almond milk. That's when 6 guns aimed at his chest and a voice barked, "Hands where I can see 'em," in aisle 9 of a quiet Tennessee. Kroger, a decorated Marine sniper, was mistaken for a criminal and humiliated like a threat. Hey everyone, today we're about to walk through something that should never have happened to a man who gave everything for this country. A decorated Marine sniper handcuffed in the dairy aisle at gunpoint, not for what he did, but for what someone thought he looked like. This isn't a movie. It's not an exaggeration. It happened. And the scars it left behind were deeper than anything from combat. This could happen to anyone, even you. So before we get into the story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly value the kind of stories we tell here. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? All right, let's begin. It was a Monday, 4:13 p.m. By Travis Bloom's watch, he was standing in the produce section of the Kroger off Columbia Pike in Franklin, Tennessee. His back was still sore from sleeping on the VA-issued mattress in his one-bedroom apartment the night before. He'd only been stateside for 5 days after spending the last 6 years on and off between Syria and Afghanistan. There were still sand particles in the lining of his boots. He hadn't unpacked, hadn't even called his mother yet. He wanted to be a surprise. He wasn't playing music, just had noise-canceling earbuds in to quiet the world. The grocery list on his phone was short: almond milk, eggs, hand soap, walked with purpose like the Marines had taught him. And as always, he wore his favorite jacket. Not because it was stylish, but because of the embroidery, a single stalk of lavender stitched across the back. A quiet tribute to his fallen unit. They called themselves the Lavender Six after the ridge where they held out for 3 days without support. When he turned onto aisle 9, it should have been nothing. Crackers to the left, granola to the right. But something felt wrong. Shadows on both ends, heavy boots, the click of holsters. He glanced up. 6 officers were closing in. "Hands where I can see 'em," one shouted, gun raised, eyes wide, cold steel glinting beneath fluorescent light. Travis froze. His training kicked in, not in aggression, but survival. Don't move fast. Don't challenge. Breathe. He raised his hands slowly, deliberately, placed his phone on the shelf without saying a word. "Turn around," someone barked. "Sir, I think you have the wrong." "Turn around." The cuffs clicked tight in under 10 seconds. Too tight, cutting into his wrist like someone wanted to make a point. Customers stared. One woman clutched her purse. A man backed into the snack aisle. A teenage girl standing near the frozen waffles began recording. "What did he do?" someone whispered. The answer came loud and unsure. "Matches the description from a robbery in Brentwood last night." That didn't make sense. Travis hadn't left the county since landing. "I live here," he said calmly, still facing the cereal shelf. "I've been back 5 days. Check my wallet. Military ID's inside." But no one checked. An officer patted him down, roughly found the ID, gave it a cursory glance, and tossed it into a plastic evidence bag like it meant nothing. The march outside felt longer than it really was. Heads turned. Some people pulled out their phones. Others just looked away. He caught a glimpse of himself in the glass of the frozen case. Jaw clenched, shoulders squared, trying not to lose control. But the damage was done. Not to his body, to his soul, to his dignity. They pushed his head down into the cruiser like he was dangerous, like he hadn't pulled 3 of their own from an IED ambush in Kabul 5 years prior. In the back seat of the patrol car, silence. One of the officers looked at his name tag. Bloom, didn't say anything else. Didn't have to. At the station, Travis was fingerprinted, searched, mugshot taken. His phone left behind in the cart, his wallet sealed away, his lavender jacket stuffed into a brown plastic bag with no label. "Can I make a phone call?" he asked. "You'll get one once we verify everything," the sergeant said without looking up. He was placed in a holding cell, bare concrete, sour smell, no bench, no clock. For the first time in a long time, Travis felt completely alone. He sat on the floor, leaned his back against the cold cinder block, and stared up at the flickering light above. Images flashed in his mind. A boy standing on a rooftop in Helmand. A girl handing him a flower through barbed wire. A comrade bleeding out in his arms. But none of that mattered here. Not his uniform. Not his medals. Not his service. All that mattered was that someone said he looked like someone else. He didn't sleep. Didn't cry. Just watch the minutes crawl by in silence. At 3:07 a.m., a guard passed by and mumbled something. Travis didn't respond, just kept breathing, just kept waiting. The bruises around his wrists were deepening, a dull, constant reminder, and he still didn't know why. By sunrise, he stood as the first light cut through the bars. He rolled his shoulders, knees cracked. His body remembered war. But this wasn't war. This was shame. A different officer came by, paper plate in hand, eggs cold, toast dry. Water, Travis asked. No answer. The tray was shoved through the gap, and the man walked away. He didn't touch the food. He didn't move. He didn't say a word. But that silence. That's where the fire started. The fire didn't start with a headline. It didn't begin with a press conference. It started with a 17-year-old girl named Natalie Dahlia, standing next to the freezer section with a frozen pizza in one hand and her phone in the other. She hadn't meant to become a witness. She just didn't like the way the man's face looked as they dragged him past the checkout lanes. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't cursing. He looked like someone who'd been through something harder than this, and that's what made it worse. Natalie hit record. The clip was short, 28 seconds. It showed a man in handcuffs, calm and silent, escorted out by 6 armed officers. The caption she posted with it was simple. He showed his military ID. They didn't care. She posted it to TikTok before she even left the store. Her fingers trembled. Something about it didn't sit right. She didn't know his name. She just knew what she saw. By the time Travis was transferred from holding to a private interview room, the video had been shared over 10,000 times. It had already found its way to a Facebook group for Tennessee veterans. One of the first people to see it there was Sergeant Caleb Stone, an ROTC instructor at a nearby high school, and a former Marine under Travis's command in Helmand Province. He clicked on the video, froze halfway through. That lavender jacket, that posture. Holy hell, he whispered, then opened his laptop. His post went up within the hour. It wasn't angry, it was precise. That's Staff Sergeant Travis Bloom. He led our recon unit in 2017. Saved my life. This man deserves better. Spread this. It caught fire. By noon, the footage had crossed platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Veterans started tagging military pages, advocacy groups, even politicians. There was no hashtag yet, but there was momentum. One comment under Natalie's video read, "If this is how we treat our Marines, we're already lost." Back at the precinct, Travis sat quietly in a metal chair across from an older detective with salt and pepper stubble. The room was bare. A file folder. A camera in the corner blinking red. "You served," the man asked, flipping open the folder. "Yes, sir. 3 tours. Syria, Afghanistan. Where in Afghanistan, Dwyer, then Kajaki." The man nodded. "Hell of a place to be." He slid a photo across the table. A grainy black and white image of a suspect from a liquor store camera. Hoodie, jeans, facial hair. "That's supposed to be me?" Travis asked. Honestly, the detective leaned back. "I don't think so, but the officer who brought you in said it was close enough." Travis clenched his jaw. "I told them who I was, showed them my ID. Yeah, that part's in the report." A pause. "Then you'll be released by afternoon. No charges, just a hold. That's it." The man shrugged. "Wrong place, wrong time. That's what they'll say." Travis stared at him, eyes steady. "That's not justice?" "No, it's not." When they returned him to the cell, he didn't sit. He stood with his back against the wall, arms crossed, staring at nothing. The bruise on his right wrist had turned violet blue. Outside, things were no longer quiet. At 3:42 p.m., General Marshall Hawthorne was standing in his Pentagon office when a staffer knocked on his door. "Sir, you need to see this." Hawthorne, now retired from active field duty, was the man who'd once pinned the purple lavender commendation onto Travis Bloom's chest. He watched the video 3 times, then opened his phone, then made a call. "Get me the name of the judge. I want to know who signed that intake." Back in Franklin, a local news crew picked up the story after a parent emailed the footage claiming their son had served with Travis. Within hours, Channel 5 ran a 90-second segment on the arrest. They didn't say his name, but they didn't have to. The jacket said it all. By dinner time, Travis was given his clothes back. No apology, just a plastic bag with his wallet keys and a claim ticket for his phone, which was still in a shopping cart at Kroger. He asked again, "Why was I booked? No record," the officer replied. "Just a detainment." He stepped outside wearing the same bruised pride he walked in with. The Tennessee air hit sharp against his skin. And standing there next to the bench outside the station was a kid no older than 20 holding a phone. "You dropped this," the kid said, nervous. "I saw the video. I figured they wouldn't let you keep it." I waited. Travis took the phone. No scratches. No case. Just returned like it mattered. "What's your name?" he asked. "Reggie." "You film it?" "No, sir. But I saw it. That girl posted it. I just thought maybe you'd need it." Travis nodded. "I do. Thank you." Reggie nodded back, then walked away. That night, Travis sat on the edge of his bed staring at the bruises on his wrist. He hadn't called his mother yet, hadn't said a word to anyone, but his phone kept buzzing, messages, mentions, links. He finally pressed play on the video, watched himself get let out like a criminal, saw the comments. He was calm. They didn't even check his ID. "This is a Marine, WTF." One comment hit harder than the rest. "My brother served with him in 2018. This man doesn't deserve this. Fix it." He put the phone down. Something was moving, but it would take more than views to fix what had been broken. Friday morning arrived with a haze. Not fog exactly, but a heaviness in the Tennessee air. Travis stood outside the Rutherford County Courthouse in a Navy shirt, khaki slacks, and county-issued slip-ons. The clothes weren't his. They'd been dropped off at his apartment the night before by a local veterans outreach coordinator. The note tucked inside the bag read, "You are not alone. We're watching. See you Friday." He didn't expect anyone to be there. Not for him, but when the courthouse doors opened, there were people inside who weren't family, weren't press, just faces, some watching, some waiting. A woman in a brown suit stood near the back, furiously typing on her phone. Two men in plain clothes, posture too rigid to be anything but military, sat near the exit, arms crossed, eyes forward. Silent sentinels. Travis walked in unshackled, but it didn't feel like freedom. His wrists still bore the rings. Faded, yes, but visible. The public defender assigned to him leaned in close. "I'm Dana Russo. Sorry it's late. I got this file just yesterday. But I've read enough. It's thin. A blurry liquor store photo and an officer already under internal review." Travis didn't flinch. "Appreciate it." Across the room, the doors creaked open again. Florence Bloom stepped in as mother. She wore her Sunday coat and the same hat she'd worn to his graduation from sniper school. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. Just gave him a nod. Solid, unshaken. That nod that said, "You all right, baby? I see you." He had to look away. Then the courtroom stirred. Not loudly, just shifted. Because the next man who entered didn't belong in a small-town courthouse. Not in full military dress. 4 stars. Ribbons that looked like history itself. He didn't look left or right, just walked forward and stopped directly in front of the bench. "Permission to address the court, Your Honor," he said. Judge Callan, 63, known for short fuses and shorter hearings, blinked. Granted." The man turned not to the judge, but to Travis. "Staff Sergeant Bloom," he said, voice deep and smooth as iron. "I've followed your service record since 2015. You led men with courage. You showed restraint under fire. You carried the weight others couldn't. You represent the best of who we are." Travis didn't speak. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the air conditioner kick on. The man faced the judge. "Let me be clear. What happened here was not a simple mistake. It was a failure. A failure to distinguish suspicion from service. A failure to check facts before humiliation. A failure that brings shame not just to this court, but to my command." There was no banging gavel, no shouting, just stillness. Judge Callan rubbed his temples. "General, Hawthorne, is it?" "Yes, sir." "Well, according to this, Mr. Bloom was detained without a warrant based on a description now proven to be inaccurate. Is that correct, Miss Russo?" "It is, Your Honor. We're moving to dismiss all pending charges." "There are no charges," the judge muttered. "Just echoes." He was about to conclude when the rear doors opened again. Natalie Dahlia entered, press badge clipped to her cardigan, a full camera crew behind her. Boom mic, rolling lens, red light blinking. "They're cleared, Your Honor," the bailiff said. "Regional public access." Callan sighed, but the camera was already on. The room was already watching. General Hawthorne didn't miss a beat. He turned slightly toward the gallery and spoke again, not to the judge now, but to the country. "I've served for 36 years. I've watched young men drag wounded teammates through gunfire. I've signed letters to mothers. I've buried good soldiers. But what I haven't done enough of, what none of us have done enough, is speak up when those same men come home and get treated like suspects instead of heroes." He looked at Travis again. "If this can happen to him, it can happen to any of us. And if you think a uniform is protection, you haven't been paying attention." Nobody moved. One person coughed 3 rows back. "That was it. I am requesting a full review of this department's handling. Paperwork is already in motion. And on behalf of every officer who ever gave you a command, Staff Sergeant Bloom, I apologize." He took one step back and saluted. Travis's shoulders dropped. Not all the way, but enough. Judge Callan cleared his throat. "Well, it appears your name is not just cleared, it's been defended at the highest level. Mr. Bloom, this hearing is concluded." He paused, looked over at the cameras, then did something no one expected. He said, "I apologize," just 2 words, but the room shifted again. As the gavel tapped, people rose. Chairs squeaked. Some murmured, some nodded. Florence didn't approach. She didn't need to. She walked beside her son without touching him, like the air between them was sacred and didn't need filling. Outside, the sun was too bright, the sidewalk too loud. A reporter chased after them. "Mr. Bloom, do you have a message for returning veterans?" Travis didn't stop. "Not right now," he said. Calm, steady, but I said not now. A black SUV was parked just up the block. The door opened. General Hawthorne stepped out again. No hat this time. "Mind if I walk with you?" he asked. Travis shrugged. "Sure." As they walked down Maple Street, Hawthorne said, "You handled that with more restraint than I ever could." Travis looked ahead. "Didn't feel like I had a choice." "It mattered," Hawthorne said. "People saw, people heard. That carries weight." Travis stopped walking. "I haven't said anything yet." The general raised an eyebrow. "You plan to?" Travis looked up at the clouds. "I might." And that's where it really began. Not with the courtroom, not with the apology, but with a decision to speak. 3 days passed before Travis said a single word to the public. He ignored every call. Let the notifications stack like unopened letters in the corner of a quiet room. Emails from local news stations, voicemails from cable networks, a producer from NBC who sounded too eager. They all waited. He stayed still. Then came one message. Not from a journalist, not from a veteran, from a school counselor. Subject line: "We need you to talk to them." The body of the email read, "Staff Sergeant Bloom, we have a JROTC group of about 30 students here at Northfield High. Some of them saw the video. A few of them are questioning whether service is worth it. One kid said, 'Why wear a uniform if they'll still treat you like a suspect? Would you be willing to talk to them?' Nothing formal, just 20 minutes of truth." M. Shin Travis read it 3 times. He didn't respond right away, but that line stuck. 20 minutes of truth. That Friday, he arrived at the school auditorium in the only dress uniform he hadn't burned or boxed up. Boots polished, jacket pressed, ribbons aligned, the lavender badge centered above his heart like a silent flag. Florence saw him off. "You sure about this?" "No," he said. "But it feels right." The auditorium was nothing special. Plastic chairs, dusty stage curtains, the kind of American flag that always looks a little too faded under fluorescent lights. The students were scattered. Some leaned back with crossed arms. Some tapped phones. A few looked bored. But when Travis stepped to the microphone, no intro, no titles, they quieted almost out of reflex. "I'm not here to convince you of anything," he began. "Not here to sell service. Not here to explain away what happened to me last week." He paused. "Let the stillness sink in. I'm just here to tell you what I've seen and what I've learned." He told them about Helmand Province, about sandstorms that stung like glass, about the way silence wasn't just absence, but a presence of its own. He talked about the nights he couldn't tell whether the buzzing in the air was a drone or a hornet, about days when your only shield was a laugh, about losing men who never got to say goodbye. And then he shifted. He told them about aisle 9, the cuffs, the silence, the shame, how quickly years of service could be erased by one wrong glance, how dignity once bruised doesn't heal fast. But I didn't yell, he said, didn't fight. Not because I was scared, but because I knew I was carrying more than just my name. I was carrying yours too. A hand raised, front row. A boy in a green ROTC jacket about 17, jaw set, eyes sharp. What stopped you from going off, he asked. From snapping, Travis let the question sit. I thought about it, he answered. But I wasn't raised by cowards, and I wasn't trained by fools. You want to know the truth? I didn't snap because I didn't want some other young black kid wearing camo to have my face plastered on every headline that said thug instead of sergeant. Another pause, another hand, this time a girl near the back. Hair pulled tight, voice steady. Would you still serve knowing what happened? Travis nodded slowly. Yes, he said. But I'd serve differently. I wouldn't stay silent when something felt wrong. I wouldn't swallow every insult just to keep a spotless record. And I wouldn't forget that speaking up isn't weakness, it's strength. The room was still again, but this time it wasn't the silence of doubt. It was attention. When he finished, a few students stood to clap. One girl hugged him without asking. Another slipped him a folded piece of paper. Thank you for saying what my dad never could. Outside in the parking lot, Mr. Shin waited by the school's side door. I don't know what you did in there, he said, eyes wide. But that room felt different when you finished. Travis looked back toward the building. They just needed someone to be honest. That night, a clip from his talk, just 53 seconds, was uploaded by a student to YouTube, then reposted to Instagram, then Twitter. The line that caught fire. I wasn't just wearing my name that day. I was wearing yours too. It was spliced into compilations, shared by military pages, talked about on a podcast run by veterans. Someone even overlaid it with footage of folded flags and salutes, calling it the Quiet Oath. Meanwhile, the fallout continued. The officer who initiated the arrest, Brent Tully, was put on paid leave. His internal record was exposed online, showing 2 prior complaints of misconduct. The department issued a bland statement. We regret the incident. An internal review is ongoing. No one bought it. Back in Franklin, Travis didn't celebrate. He just kept moving. He started stopping by the community center. Not for events, just to sit in the back and watch the kids run drills. Then one day someone handed him a whistle. You know the routine, they said. Mind helping out, so he did. And when one kid struggled to line up their steps, Travis knelt beside him and said, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. That one sentence made the kid straighten his spine like he'd just grown 2 inches. People still whispered when Travis walked into stores, still looked sideways, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was something closer to reverence. And even though it made him uncomfortable, he didn't shy away from it, because he knew someone was watching, and that meant everything. It was a Wednesday when Mrs. Webb from the Rutherford County Juvenile Center called. The message she left was short. I heard about what you did at the high school. I've got 15 boys who think they're already forgotten. Would you stop by? Travis didn't hesitate. I'm not bringing a camera, he said. Mrs. Webb chuckled. Good, neither are we. When he arrived, he wore jeans, boots, and a plain charcoal hoodie. Nothing sharp, nothing showy, just the kind of clothes a man wears when he's not trying to impress but refuses to disappear. The center was quiet, sterile. Fluorescent lights, locking doors, walls that smelled like old paint and older fear. Mrs. Webb met him at the front desk, a clipboard under one arm. They're not bad kids, she said as they walked. Most just never had anyone who really saw them. Travis nodded. He understood more than he wanted to admit. The boys were already in the room, slouched in plastic chairs, arms folded, sneakers untied. The air thick with suspicion. Some glanced up. Others barely noticed him walk in. He stood in front of them. No mic, no introduction, just air and tension. I'm not your pastor, he began. I'm not your parent. I'm not here to tell you how to live. That got a few of them to look up. I just know what it feels like to walk into a room and have someone see threat before they see person. He told them about aisle 9, not like a victim, just like a man telling a story. He didn't embellish, didn't dramatize, just laid it out. I got arrested in a grocery store. I didn't run. I didn't yell. Still ended up in cuffs. A kid with braids in the second row scoffed. So what, you just forgive it? Travis locked eyes with him. No, he said, but I don't drag it around like a chain either. I carry it like a warning lead. That landed. He stepped forward slow and steady. You ever do something you regret? Not because you're evil, but because nobody ever taught you different, or maybe you just didn't care that day. Several nodded, quiet, almost imperceptible. Yeah, Travis said, I've been there. But here's what they won't tell you. Guilt eats you alive. And regret, it's worse than these walls. But accountability, he let the word hang. That's where freedom starts. He paused. Let me ask you something. What would you do different if you knew someone was watching, not a judge, not a guard, somebody who looked up to you, your little brother, your niece, somebody who might walk this same path one day? The silence in the room thickened, not out of discomfort, but attention. Mrs. Webb stood at the edge of the room, arms crossed. She whispered to herself, he's not preaching, he's seeing them. Afterward, as the boys filed out, one lingered behind. Shoes too big, hands deep in his hoodie pocket. You really shoot someone, the boy asked. Travis looked him in the eye. Yeah, he said, because they were about to kill a family. I didn't want to, but I had to. The boy held that, then nodded, almost to himself. I want to be better, he said. I just don't know where to start. Travis handed him a folded slip of paper. Names of recruiters who won't talk to you like you're trash. Not saying you should sign up, just giving you options. The boy took it, said nothing, but didn't throw it away. A week later, Travis was back at Stonebridge Park. Noon, light breeze, the kind of calm day that had become rare. He wore no uniform, no ribbons, just the same faded hoodie and a ball cap with a lavender patch, the one Florence had sewn on herself. He was sitting on a bench eating the sandwich she packed for him, turkey no mayo, when a man walked by with a boy trailing behind him. The boy, maybe 10, dragged a camo backpack through the dirt. He glanced at Travis, then did a double take. Hey, he said, are you that guy? The one in the phone video? Travis blinked, then smiled just a little. Yeah, that was me. The boy beamed. My teacher showed us. You were real calm. I like that. Travis nodded. Appreciate it. The boy looked back 3 times before disappearing down the path. His father didn't say much, just offered a silent nod. Not pity, not discomfort, something closer to respect. Back home, Florence had taped a photo to the fridge. It was the shot from the courtroom, Travis standing straight, General Hawthorne beside him. She didn't show it off to guess. Didn't need to. It was there for one reason. A reminder, restraint is not weakness, and silence when chosen is not surrender. That night, as they cleared the dinner table, she looked over at him. You feel like yourself again, she asked. He thought about it. No, he said. I feel better, and maybe that's the point. See, this wasn't a story about war, or courtrooms, or even the bruises left behind by a mistake that never should have happened. This was about what we do after the damage, about the strength it takes to not let rage drive the wheel, about choosing to rebuild, not retaliate. For every person listening right now, maybe you've had a moment, small or large, where you were misunderstood, mistaken, mistreated. You wanted to shout, you wanted to burn the whole thing down, but something in you held steady. Let me tell you something that matters. That stillness is not silence, it's strength. So if you're ever cuffed without cause, dismissed without reason, or judged without truth, remember what Travis Bloom did. He stood still. He didn't beg for justice. He made justice face him. He didn't scream his worth. He lived it. And in doing so, he taught a room full of kids, a city full of skeptics, and a country full of veterans that calm doesn't mean powerless. It means unshakable. Thank you for listening. We don't all wear uniforms, but we all serve someone, a neighbor, a student, a loved one, a stranger who needs to be seen. And if this story moved you, share it. Don't let it stay silent. Someone out there is still waiting to be heard.